every time, the new president was coming into the office on January 20th, right? So about first week in January, the advance team was calling me and says, you don't have to submit your resignation. Because I was still in a civil service status. And that's the way I finished my career in the federal government. But like I say, it's a most wonderful time. And I always remember accomplishments in, I would say, in environmental victories, I would call it, in our Great Lakes office. It was almost independent office. No other region has anything like this. Our relationship with Canada and Great Lakes was I believe we made quite a progress in cleaning up the environment over there. We had a very rough beginning with a big industry, but after a while, they actually accepted the fact that we are not going to give up as the EPA Region 5, and we are going to fight for what it requires by law. And I remember my farewell dinner at Standard Oil building at that time in Chicago. In Chicago, I still feel it every time I'm in Chicago, I look at the white Standard Oil building. I believe it's changed its name right now. And at the very beginning, it was a farewell dinner, and all the big companies' representatives were present over there at that evening. And President Clinton sent his representative to that evening and expressing, his thank you for the services I provided for the United States. And one thing what I remember very well, it was a U.S. Steel president. And he definitely in his speech somehow said, we were not happy at the very beginning with Adamkus as present over there. He was tough and we had to fight him. But he said, at least we knew that wherever comes any problem, he takes the position, he's firmly standing for it until this is resolved. And that makes the difference. That's kind of a compliment I still remember, getting from the pretty big, company's representative at that evening meal.
I think that with recent things that have happened at EPA in Chicago, it kind of brings back the memory of the time you had these issues with Dow Chemical Company. Michigan is the graveyard of regional administrators in Chicago, but you went through a tough time there and prevailed, and you held your ground, and your staff supported it.
What the staff you just mentioned, that was the outstanding professional group of people, and we really took the position not because we have to change it. This was what we believed, it's wrong, it has to be done rightly, and we stood, without any deviations, and the companies recognized after a while, it was easier to do because I believe I don't recall which company it was, but when we proposed, our enforcement division stated, that this is the case and you have to correct. They didn't want to even talk to us. You remember, they said, okay, we'll meet you in a court. But after that, I believe we did win few big cases, and the situation changed. I always dealt with the different companies, reviewing the plans, seeing how it could be resolved, and of course, maybe we weren't very much liked because it always cost the company big money, but the difference in environment, in accomplishments of the environmental area in our around Lake Michigans, it did change. I remember, the posting around the front Chicago and in front of the lake, in front of the city, on the lake. Don't swim or swim at your own risk. It's polluted. Now when you ask, somebody, about the situation that it was a time, what lake was polluted, and we had those kind of warnings, nobody will believe it. Says you, what are you talking about? How you can pollute the big lake, Lake Michigan? But those are very sweet memories, and like I said, I can only say thanks for the memories. Just like I believe
Bob
Hope used that. This is the way I understand. Right now, more than anything else. This his statement after every program.
Did you? You live in Lithuania now, and you come to Chicago every once in a while for medical checkups and to visit friends, I'm sure. What do you do with your life now in Lithuania? What do you do with your time?
Okay, that's a very good question. I remember very well. On my last ceremonies when I turned over the presidential powers to new elected president after my 2 terms over there, and it was a very nice ceremonies. And I was leaving from the presidential palace. It was thousands of people around and shaking hands and thank you, and so on. And Alma was in the car. I just entered into the car and we drove back home. And on the way, I just asked Alma, I said, I just wonder, what do you think? What I'm going to do tomorrow morning when I get up? And I was seriously worried about this, but now, already after this, I left the office in 2009. Now it's the 16th, it's 7 years. I definitely can say that I am as busy as I was. I have my 3 offices, 3 rooms in a presidential palace. I am coming in, I have 2 secretaries and definitely the driver and the secret agents, 4 of them, they are continuously with me. And I come to the office at 10 o'clock in the morning. I spend over there 4 or 5 hours sometimes. The phones are ringing. I'm getting every day 10, 15 or so letters. People still don't realize, or don't know, that I don't have the presidential powers over there, the ex-president, so on. But they're coming with all kinds of complaints. Please, why don't you do this and that? So we are turning those letters accordingly to the some of the ministries and responsible groups of people for resolution. I had the invitation to speak at all kinds of occasions. Graduations and university graduation ceremonies and public speaking and big meetings. The celebration of some cities 200, 100 years anniversary and so on. So I would say that we can just probably respond to about 1/3 of requests, of my participation. Of course, I have the invitations to international conferences, but this we are very, very selective and apologetic, because I wouldn't have enough money to pay for all participation on those international, because this is expensive, and no government is not paying this kind of trips and those kind of participation. So, but what I want to say, I still living full life. I feel, that my participation is needed, that I can contribute to the society, as a whole, attending those, especially the school graduation meetings, and speaking to the group of students. And what interesting, I mean, always question comes up at different locations. I mean, could you tell us, Mr. President, how to become the president? So I always say, I mean, this is one of questions I definitely cannot answer to you. But one thing what you have to remember, once you put your hand on the Constitution and take the oath of office, for the rest of your life, you don't have any more privacy. And that's true, and I know that. And on top of it, I add to it, nobody told me about this when I was making my decision.
Well, you are also probably, in a modern way, you're the father of your country, of the new country, right? So people look at you, young people, I say especially, would look at you as, and people that remember the communists would remember you now as the father of modern Lithuania.
Oh, I don't know, I mean, how to respond to that question. I mean, probably yes, I mean. Oh,
You're like George
that's
Washington.
the story.